Recently, I've been inundated with a lot of films coming out of Australia. I'm not complaining. I'm a massive fan of exploitation, and seeing some modern Aussie films that are keeping it alive makes me happy. One of which is a little film called Bliss of Evil. It's a fairly micro budgeted horror film revolving around a band trying to record an album. Bliss of Evil takes place in a recording studio in 1997 where the band members are tormented by a killer who has locked himself in the building with them. It's loosely based off of a few true events, which they melded into one story, and gave it a little dose of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The main event was a series of murders in Brisbane, which they mention in the intro text. It's very straightforward. Group goes into the studio, the killer hides in the studio, some flashbacks, story, kills, etc. All fairly standard stuff. I like the various characters to a certain degree, and I thought the idea of having the killer in a recording studio was unique. There have been other killer in a studio films before, but I can't think of another with a killer in a band. There was Rocktober Blood, but that took place mostly outside the studio. Keeping the film contained helped to make things claustrophobic, but also, I'm sure, helped to keep the budget down. This way they could shoot day or night, and it didn't matter because it was all inside in this closed-off environment. It also helped to keep the number of casts down. I spoke with the writer, and he said the film was shot in 13 days for about 15,000 Australian. That's pretty impressive. On that note, the writer's a fan of the channel, and I've spoken to him a few times over the years. So if you think this taints my review and makes it so I'm just being polite, you can disregard whatever I'm saying. In truth, I'll tell you what I told him. I like this movie, but I still thought it was flawed and could have been better. My biggest gripe, and this is something all kinds of movies are guilty of, was the abuse of digital noise. Movies usually do this to try to cover up imperfections, but often it just gets annoying, especially when it's not a found footage movie. Why are you having this effect if you're watching a traditional movie? Takes me right out of it. Some of the blood splatter was really bad CG, which apparently they didn't want to do. They tried to do it practically, but when they didn't get the desired splatter, they had to go back and try to fix it with CG. The movie did occasionally drag, and there were some lapses in logic, but most of those I didn't really consider as I was watching it. On the positive side, I did like the actors. In most low-budget films, you don't always get the best. However, here, I thought they all did a good job. The character of Rhea was my favorite. I thought she was the most believable. I also discovered something I didn't know until after I watched it. The writer of the movie played double duty as the killer. He has a good look and the right crazy eyes for the part. Usually when there's a movie about a band, the music tends to be covers or really awful original songs. While the main focus was the song Bliss of Evil, the songs they play weren't all that bad. I'm not going to rush out and buy the soundtrack or anything, but I wasn't plugging my ears like some other movies. All in all, Bliss of Evil is an entertaining, tiny budget feature. It's going to be hitting Tubi this month if you want to give it a look.